Welcome to PricePlow. My name is Mike and welcome to our 6th edition of the Formulators Corner, where I put together dream supplements that are hypothetical. This is a fictitious supplement we're putting together, and this is a very important one because it is an immunity supplement, a modern immunity supplement. We're going to talk about a lot of the new stuff that's been happening. Now, there's of course going to be a lot of disclaimers here, but this is basically like a dream supplement that I've kind of stacked together, and a lot of the stuff is the stuff that I use. However, I have to use a ton of capsules to get everything that I want. In this, I'm packing as much as humanly possible into 4 capsules to be taken daily, and we'll talk about how we could double the dose when things get a little bit iffy and all that too. So once again, this is a hypothetical supplement that's formulated with a lot of my favorite immune boosting ingredients. Not all of them have to be that expensive, and we're going to talk about each and every one of them, so it's gonna be a long video. I of course need to do some disclaimers here. First off, any dietary supplement is not intended to cure, treat, or diagnose any disease, or not approved by the Food and Drug Administration, and you should speak to your doctor before beginning any new dietary supplement regimen, especially if you have any disease conditions or you are on prescription drugs. Everyone should know that at this point. Second, we are actually going to talk about some of the recent ongoings here, so I'm going to try my best to make this YouTube friendly. However, there is a lot, and in the YouTube show notes or the description, we have a link to the blog post. This blog post, I cite a lot of studies that have been published in 2020 and 2021, and they are very, let's just say, relevant to the ongoings that are happening here. I don't want to talk too much detail here, but in this video, we are going to talk about a certain virus, or I guess you could say virus family here. It starts with the letter S, and we're also then going to also talk about a certain disease state that has a name that begins with the letter C, with a couple numbers at the end of it, if you get where I'm going. So we are going to talk about that stuff because a lot of them, and the issue that I've seen, and the reason we're here, and the reason I made this blog post, is a really lengthy blog post with a ton of citations, is that there's a lot of these immune supplements that we've been covering over the last couple of years. Probably covered like a dozen or so. All of them are missing one or more of the different components. And there's been a couple that have come really close to what I wanted, but there's 4 main things that I believe that have been missing from all these supplements, and some of them hit, some of them, but not any supplement has hit all the 4 things that I want to deal with. So the first problem is that a lot of these supplements are either not using a high bioavailability zinc, or they're not using a zinc ionophore. And so we are going to add an ingredient. There's 2 easy to use dietary supplement ingredients that act as zinc ionophores that allow our bodies to drive the zinc into the cells where they can exert their effects. And a lot of these supplements also haven't been using high bioavailability zinc. There are 3 types of zinc that I really trust, maybe a 4th one that's okay. But in general, I'm not a fan of zinc oxide. There's too much research showing that there's other ingredients better than it. So we are going to use one of the 3 top tier zincs in here, as well as a zinc ionophore that I am very, very high upon. Second, a lot of these immunity supplements don't include an ACE2 inhibitor. ACE2 being the enzyme that is kind of the pathway of entry of our virus at hand, or novel virus at hand, is using this ACE2 mechanism, and we are not inhibiting it with too many immunity supplements. That's taken care of here. Not taken care of, but we're at least like trying. So we are combating it here. Third, a lot of these dietary supplement companies have not taken the time to understand L-Ergothioneine, which I think is the most fascinating supplement ingredient on the market. It's known as MitoPrime from NNB Nutrition. They are the sponsors of this video, but we're going to talk about that's just one piece of this puzzle. And so we're going to talk about this really, really extraordinary compound that is, in my opinion, the best antioxidant. It's like the intelligent antioxidant is what I like to call it, and it has been with humanity since humanity began. It's actually older than time itself almost. There's research showing that it actually survived the great oxygenation event of Earth about 2.4 billion years ago, and is very protective against like reactive oxygen species, and it is found in mushrooms and organ meats, 2 things we don't eat enough of lately. So we're going to talk about ergothioneine. It's going to be a component in this supplement. And fourth, a lot of these dietary supplements aren't talking about metabolic health or not working on metabolic health. A lot of times because it costs more money to add more ingredients to improve metabolic health, but we need to talk about a little bit, and it leads into our next disclaimer, the importance of metabolic health. No matter what we throw at it, no matter what kinds of like therapeutics or novel drugs or whatever we try to do, we have seen time and time again that our immune systems are horribly affected if we have poor metabolic health, and they work a lot better if we have good metabolic health. We're not going to get into the details here, but in general, my advice is always to avoid as much of the omega-6 polyunsaturated fats as possible coming from the seed oils, the vegetable oils that are toxic and that cause a lot of free radical damage, that hurt the electron transport chain, and just pretty much lead to a strong mitochondrial dysfunction and increase in appetite. They activate the endocannabinoid system. There's a lot of problems that happen that make us hungry, and we are getting toxic with these omega-6 fats. And that is one major component that no one's talking about when it comes to metabolic health. Second is refined carbohydrates, sugars, and everything. In my opinion, as someone who is on the more athletic side, I know that a lot of us love our carbs. Use just as many carbs as it takes to get your athletic goals accomplished, but don't leave yourself in a state of hyperglycemia all the time. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to start burning fat. You're not going to have a metabolic health. And there's just too much research showing that insulin resistance and pre-diabetic type situations leading into diabetes are going to give a serious problem when faced with disease. So that's pretty much well known. So we are going to try to combat that a little bit, but we don't have a ton of space to throw it. This is not a metabolic health supplement. It is an immunity supplement that has some metabolic health components, and it's hypothetical anyway. So folks who are out there, different formulators who are checking this out, can choose to include more, can include less, or put it into a separate kind of supplement, because there's some ingredients out there that really can help some of these issues on top, of course, of proper diet and exercise. And alongside of the diet side of things, I am a very big proponent of animal-based foods. And so we don't want to get too much into that, but just find a way. The point is to find a way to reduce insulinemia and hyperglycemia. Generally, that's going to be found by lowering carbs, increasing protein, increasing animal foods, and decreasing omega-6s in general. So after that, now we also have a second disclaimer, or is it a third disclaimer? Third disclaimer is that in this supplement, there's an ingredient we do not have, and it is an ingredient I heavily believe in, and that's NAC, or N-acetylcysteine. There's two reasons. First off, I wanted to make this a challenge for ourselves, but the real reason is that right now the FDA has been posturing against this ingredient, even though there is absolute verifiable proof that this ingredient, N-acetylcysteine, has been sold. We'll show some images. Has been marketed and sold as a dietary supplement before DSHEA in 1994, which is the prevailing law of the land in the dietary supplement industry, and it should be grandfathered in as an old dietary ingredient, ODI. However, the FDA began posturing against it due to some claims that were made by some hangover type of supplements and everything. And when that happened, Amazon took it off. Now, I do not agree with a lot of those decisions, although I agree that you shouldn't be making hangover claims on your supplements. And anyone who's going to use any of these ingredients as a manufacturer should not be making claims. However, if Amazon's not going to allow any products with NAC in it, which is very unfortunate because there is an incredible amount of research showing how successful it is at helping to treat the disease at hand. Well, if Amazon's not going to allow it, we want to get this supplement in my fictitious brand here. We want to get this supplement into as many hands as possible. So this is consider this the Amazon version. There's no NAC in here. However, I have two different ingredients that can work to kind of, I'm not going to say replace, but do our best to replace NAC. And what NAC does is it helps our bodies produce glutathione, which is one of the key antioxidants in the body. And it's very good at helping your body to produce glutathione. So I have another ingredient that's going to help us upregulate glutathione production in a completely different pathway than NAC. And then we also have the Ergothioneine, which actually has been shown to outperform glutathione. So this is the beginning. Let's get ready to rock. Thanks for sitting for the disclaimer. And we're going to do this in pieces so that we can put together the whole label right here. Okay, so right off the bat, we're going to start off with my Ergo Ace Blend. And this is going to be exactly what I just talked about, our NAC substitute, let's just say. First things first. olive leaf extract. This is about the cheapest ingredient there is out there. Absolutely fantastic stuff. The reason it's here primarily is because this is our ACE2 inhibitor. I am a huge believer in olive leaf extract. I mean, look at me, I'm Italian, let's go. But I'm a huge believer in olive leaf extract. A lot of times you see it in diet and weight loss supplements, and it's standardized for its L-Ergothioneine, which has some great diet-based benefits. Huge believer in that. We don't even need to do that. We just need a basic full spectrum extract that's gonna give us a little bit of everything, because it has been shown to block ACE2 docking actually better than a lot of pharmaceutical drugs. So you don't want to make too many claims or anything like that, but this stuff is for real when it comes to blocking ACE2 docking. So right off the bat, we have a nice protective boost from the olive leaf extract. However, there is another study showing that olive leaf extract can increase glutathione levels without the use of NAC. So we have another pathway here. So olive leaf extract right off the bat is one of my favorite new ingredients that I've learned about over the last 2 years, more in depth in terms of immunity. We've seen it, like I said, in the diet supplements, covered it before there, but in terms of immune system supplements, if you're making a new one, this is cheap, effective, seems to have very low side effects. Like it's olive leaf extract. It's very basic, but has a lot of these great properties. But yeah, if you want to learn more, look at the citations roughly like 21 through 23. Sometimes it shifts as we update these posts, talking about the ACE2 enzyme, angiotensin converting enzyme 2, and so it is susceptible to the viral infection. It is the receptor that is often used by the virus. So we are downregulating it with olive leaf extract. That's the main reason, but we also have some extra glutathione production. Now, without having the NAC, what do we replace it with? I'm going to say something even better, something that even outperforms glutathione itself, and that is MitoPrime from NNB Nutrition, L-Ergothioneine. Like I mentioned, this is an ingredient that is found in 2 foods that we are no longer eating enough of. We have in fungus, or mushrooms, and in organ meats, because the cows and the ruminant animals that are eating it are able to store it in their organs, as we are too. And it is then used when needed to provide antioxidant-based capabilities, and it protects not just against reactive oxygen species, but against singlet oxygen, which is a type of oxygen that's extremely hazardous. It protects against chlorine species, nitrogen species, and one other that I'm forgetting. And so it has a ton of different protective qualities, and there's a lot of scientists out there, and this is all covered in the blog post, tons of citations here, a lot of scientists who believe this ingredient, L-Ergothioneine, was the reason that so much life was able to survive the great oxygenation event. You have to realize oxygen gives us life, but too much oxygen is quite damaging as well. So we have these free radical cascades where we have oxidative stress, and L-Ergothioneine is able to protect us from it. The reason you haven't heard about this ingredient that much is because it was horribly expensive to create. NNB Nutrition, they've been talking about this for actually 2 years, and they finally figured out a way to get this into the hands of supplement brands at a far cheaper price. It's still not the cheapest ingredient, but at a far cheaper price that's actually at least like palatable now. And so I'm like incredibly excited about this ingredient. It turns out that our bodies actually have our own transporter for this ingredient and this ingredient alone. It seems like we have like kind of evolutionarily come up with it, but we're no longer eating the ingredient enough. We're no longer getting enough of it in our food. Our bodies are actually able to store ergothioneine, and we're able to deploy it when needed. But we can't deploy it if the pathways aren't doing anything if we don't have any in the diet. So this is the perfect use case of supplementation. I still do believe in eating organ meats. I blend it up with my ground beef, and I do believe that every time, I've talked about this a lot on this channel, mushrooms are the most underrated things, most underrated food group there is, really. But so the reason that we're really excited about ergothioneine in this specific context, however, is because there's a paper by one of the ergothioneine experts, and they ask, could ergothioneine aid in the treatment of coronavirus patients? And so they basically lay out every single thing that this virus and this disease state do to the body Ergothioneine is protective against. We're talking about reduction of inflammation, free radical scavenging, protection from acute respiratory distress, endothelial cell protection, protection against ischemia and reperfusion injury, neuron damage protection, iron dysregulation, lung and liver dysregulation, damage mitigation. There's a whole tons of stuff, all these different pathways, the IL-6 inflammatory cytokine, all these things that are caused by this novel disease state at hand. Ergothioneine can protect against. And so we don't have a lot of human research on this ingredient specifically, but everything lines up. And in fact, ergothioneine has been shown to outperform not just glutathione, but also other popular antioxidants you may have known about, such as vitamin C and coenzyme Q10. Now, we are going to include vitamin C here because I think it still is very beneficial, especially for general immunity. But ergothioneine is, I believe, the next generation of dietary immunity supplement ingredients, especially if you're not eating your mushrooms and organ meats. Doctors out there have called it a longevity vitamin, and it actually is a candidate vitamin status because it is not found enough in the food supply. We cannot synthesize it ourselves in our bodies, but have incredible benefits when we do get enough of it. And so that's why ergothioneine is hugely, extraordinarily beneficial, and I do believe it does deserve that vitamin candidate status. And then we talk about the historical use of it. Yeah, really cool stuff. Read the blog post. We have an even deeper blog post. It's quite long. Ergothioneine, it's awesome. And next we get into our zinc driver blend. There's 2 zinc ionophores, and we have a high bioavailability zinc. 2 zinc ionophores that I am excited about. One of them is green tea extract. Not using that one because we are using instead 500 milligrams of quercetin. A lot of people have come to understand quercetin, and this has long been in anti-allergy supplements because it has some effects in that realm. But we are using it because it is a zinc ionophore and it works incredibly well. There is research showing its efficacy alongside of zinc, alongside of vitamin C, which again we have in here, against the virus and the disease at hand. So I've chosen to use quercetin 500 milligrams inside. Quercetin also has some incredible effects. We talked about it in our last Formulators Corner for a mitochondrial boosting pre-workout supplement because it is able to protect our cells' ability to keep its NAD levels high. So we have cellular energy from this as well. Like, I'm a huge fan of quercetin and a very big fan of any of the immunity supplements that provide quercetin, of course, alongside of a high bioavailability zinc. My choice. There's 3 that I'll just tell you all 3 that I like, but the one I'm using is zinc picolinate ZinMax from Nutrition 21. Now, zinc picolinate is interesting because it's the picolinic acid that I think is fascinating, that this is actually naturally found and secreted by the body, this picolinic acid, and it's known as a zinc binding ligand that helps our body bind to the zinc and pull it in and absorb it. Now, the issue is that some types of users, some types of dieters out there aren't getting enough of the ingredients that help you create the zinc binding ligands, such as, which is picolinic acid. In order to generate our own picolinic acid, you need enough vitamin B6, you need enough tryptophan, and a lot of the low meat dieters are not getting enough of that. So you supplement more by binding the zinc to the picolinic acid itself, and now you have the binding ligand already ready to go for you, and it has a very high bioavailability, has outperformed other forms of zinc such as zinc citrate, for instance. Now, if you want to argue about zinc all day long, that's fine. I don't care. But the other 2 zincs that I like are OptiZinc, which is bound to methionine, and zinc bisglycinate, which is bound to glycine. So those are using the amino acid binding, like the Trojan horse method to kind of, our bodies don't like to absorb minerals, but the intestines are great at absorbing amino acids. So you Trojan horse it by binding it to an amino acid, it gets in, and then we get the zinc into the plasma. I chose ZinMax zinc picolinate because I think the picolinic acid is something that too many people are lacking or not able to produce enough of. And so that's where we went. Now here's the deal though. I went 25 milligrams. A lot of these immunity supplements have 50 milligrams. A lot of these immunity supplements have 30 milligrams. The issue with that is that if we are going to double dose this supplement, if we have been exposed or are getting sick, if we're going to double dose it, then I think 30 times 2, which is 60, is a little bit on the high end. However, 25 milligrams plus whatever you're getting from diet, whatever you're getting from maybe your multivitamin, I think that's plenty. But if you end up getting a little bit sick or feel the sniffles coming on, doubling this supplement and then getting up to 50 milligrams is perfect. So that's why I chose 25 milligrams here. It's doubleable, and I know that's not a word. So next we have my Parabolic Blend, and this is my, let's just say, anti-parasitic metabolic blend. First things first, garlic. I did say I'm Italian, didn't I? So garlic is, we often see that in heart health supplements, which is very important during these times as well right now. But there is one study that shows that garlic has outperformed a certain, let's just say, a certain anti-parasitic drug. It starts with the letter I. I don't think I'm allowed to say it here. Garlic outperformed it in a study. So I'm not saying it's better than a drug in all cases, but I am saying that garlic has some incredible properties that we want. It has a lot of antiviral properties, has a lot of antibacterial properties. It smells awesome. And if you disagree, then you're wrong. and we have 500 milligrams here. So check out that study here as I speak right now. It is citation 93. Yeah, we cite a lot of studies here. And then I have my ginger blend. Now I'm a huge fan of ginger as well. Garlic and ginger I like to cook with together a lot. But I'm doing something a little different with ginger. So first off, we know that ginger has a lot of anti-nausea, anti-obesity style effects. And that's great. That's why it's in our metabolic blend a little bit here. But it also has strong antiviral properties. There have studies been showing that it helps to combat influenza A, RSV, and so like we're not even talking about the virus at hand. We also have other things still out there, folks, so we do want to protect against those, and ginger helps with that. However, I'm only going 250 milligrams here. The reason is because I'm using another form of ginger, NNB Nutrition's ZinjaBurn, which is actually marketed as a metabolic ingredient, but it is really dehydrozingerone. And this is kind of like, it's a metabolite, kind of half analog of curcumin, which has its own antiviral effects. But this is a potent anti-inflammatory compound that is also found in certain types of gingers, dehydrozingerone. And it's so powerful that there's a research study that shows what it is. There's a research study basically where they are using it as a drug scaffold, because these drug companies, they can't patent dehydrozingerone. Like Mother Nature already patented that, but they can tweak the molecule a little bit and then make their own drug off of it. And there's a lot of investigation going into this ingredient because it is so potent as an anti-inflammatory, which is exactly what we want here. But also, I talked about the seed oils earlier, I talked about metabolic health. One really cool thing here is that dehydrozingerone is able to inhibit linoleic acid oxidation. Linoleic acid is the fatty acid that when dosed too high leads to all sorts of inflammatory states, especially when it is oxidized. The downstream components of linoleic acid, such as 4-HNE, are going to be horribly toxic, and at a time like this we don't need to be dealing with that. So I actually include dehydrozingerone here, but to down-regulate linoleic oxidation, because we don't need free radical cascades starting at a time like this. That's my take. And so I'm a huge proponent of having both the MitoPrime and the ZinjaBurn in here to help protect us from some of the downsides of the processed food diet that we should be trying to slowly burn out of our fat stores. Linoleic acid is found rampantly in the fat cells of humans nowadays, where it wasn't, let's just say, 70 years ago. There's studies showing that. A man named Stefan Guyane, who used to write about this stuff. And there's some really good research showing how much the obesity epidemic has correlated with all this linoleic acid. That's exactly where I'm going. So anyway, after that though, a little bit more metabolic support. Dihydroberberine, known as GlucoVantage, once again from NNB Nutrition, absolutely the most important metabolic ingredient there is. That's it. If you want to take or lower or control your blood sugar levels, your A1C levels, and you don't feel like you're not like in a situation where you need to be at the doctor, but you're starting to get a little bit out of control, take a look at the research in berberine and dihydroberberine. Dihydroberberine is a more active metabolite of berberine that skips a lot of the GI distress and runaround that regular berberine gives us, and we're able to get a lower dose, and it's stronger at the same time. Now, this ingredient is generally here because of metabolic health properties, but when we get berberine into our plasma, which is exactly what dihydroberberine does, you have incredible antiviral effects as well. And that's actually one of the real reasons is here. It's a better immunity supplement than most people take it for. And it actually has been it has been studied against the novel virus at hand and was actually able to help in patients who are having severe diarrhea problems. Berberine was actually able to help with it. So I think that they should be testing the more active form of berberine, which is dihydroberberine, and you'll get that from NNB Nutrition's GlucoVantage. So we don't need the huge dose. If you want to like outperform pharmaceutical drugs like metformin, 1.5 grams per day is what one study used. We don't have room for that, obviously. But you can use a lot less dihydroberberine. And in here, we're just going with 75 milligrams, which is enough to get a little bit of, I would say, a blood sugar lowering effect that I've witnessed from other supplements that have that dose. But in general, we're here just to keep the antiviral effect going strong. After that, so yeah, we have a lot of studies showing that. After that, I have my Sunshine and Support Blend. I should have said this in my disclaimers, folks. Get your sunshine. We all know this. Everyone's seen the research, or you hopefully have seen the research showing that vitamin D status is massively correlated with success fighting the disease state at hand. And so the only way to really find out is to get your vitamin D levels checked. This is one area where I think I made a mistake in the blog post. But first, let me go with, first off, we have 250 milligrams of vitamin C. We've seen larger, we've seen smaller doses. Chances are it's easy to get this stuff in. This is 275% daily value. But and this is what fit in the supplement. Vitamin C, in general, all the research, very heavily researched in the 1970s, in general, it shows that if you have a cold, it helps you get over the cold about half a day on average faster, which is awesome. You know, you get a half a day of your life back. But in general, vitamin C is kind of, there's this antioxidant paradox where just all these great antioxidants have not really solved any problems. You know, things have gotten worse. They're just not strong enough to combat the processed food supply, honestly. And that's where I think ergothioneine and ingredients like dehydrozingerone or ZinjaBurn are going to help a little bit better and kind of solve that antioxidant paradox. But it's a good ingredient. It's not enough on its own. So yeah, keep your vitamin C. It'll help. It's got some great effects. It's not enough. I have to skip to vitamin D real quick because vitamin D3, this is where I screwed up. Maybe. I included 4,000 IUs here. Honestly, since I wrote this post, I've switched to taking myself. I've taken 10,000 IUs a day and I'm having some changes. I've gotten my strength has kicked it up a notch. I've done a few other things and I keep coming back to the fact that I think I got vitamin D levels a little bit higher and I think I needed them higher, even though I get a ton of sun. I'm still trying to rock a tan here and it is January of 2022. We're here in Texas. If it's sunny, I'm swimming outside. So I get as much sun as possible, but during the winter, we aren't getting, you know, that direct sunlight. You know, we're kind of, it's on an angle, you know the solar system thing. So anyway, I've bumped it up to 10,000 IUs. In the supplement, I have 4,000 IUs, which I think is safe for men and women, especially if you're taking a separate multivitamin, you're eating some food. I'd kick this up to 6,000 at least, maybe even higher. Like, I don't see a problem going 10,000 IUs. And so if we did double this, however, we're at 8,000 IUs. So maybe 5,000 IUs would be the best spot. But 4,000 IUs that I have here is still 500% daily value. So I do believe in high dosing vitamin D, not extreme. There's some people who will do 50,000 IUs once a week. Look into that research as well. It might be 30,000. There's a couple studies showing that. We're looking for a daily supplement here. So I'm not telling you to take one thing once a week. And so 4,000 IUs is what I put in here. I'd probably go a little higher. Now, after that, let's scrolling back up. Here's one that we see in a lot of appetite suppressants, actually. So maybe a little bit of metabolic support. We're not here for that. It's actually saffron. And I'm using kind of a half dose, 44 milligrams. And it can always be doubled into the 88 milligrams. That is a little bit more of the full dose that has been studied for like the mood boosting benefits and everything. But actually, there's a lot of different constituents in saffron that are these ancient like drugs almost, and they have been studied for the disease state at hand. And there's a large meta-analysis covering 9 studies in 5,500 patients, and they show an incredible effect from a certain constituent of saffron. So if we get just a pinch of it here, then I'd be very happy. But in addition, finally, we also have a study showing that saffron is able to like kind of tone down, and I think that's the researchers' words, not mine. Yeah, they put toning down in the study's name. Toning down the cytokine storm implicated in our disease. So look into some of the saffron stuff and see that it works. And the reason it's working is because it's able to downregulate ACE2 expression. So not allowing as many of those doorways to be open for this virus. And that's an important thing. Saffron, highly underrated, and if you don't get any of the other effects, you're probably gonna feel a little bit of a mood burst and a bit of appetite suppression from it as well. And so that is most of my formula. There's one last ingredient, and this would probably be a variable dosage depending on how a formulator can smash these powders into the pills, because everything always changes. I had to leave a lot of room for like the ZinMax zinc, of course, because zinc picolinate, it may be 25 milligrams of zinc, but that actually takes 250 milligrams of material. So I tried to calculate a lot of that in. Anyway, the final thing I want to say though is that if we have any room left, glycine, the amino acid that I think is a little bit underrated, and a lot of people should be taking more before bed. And so big fan of glycine, but there's another study showing that, basically it's the same thing as ergothioneine. A lot of the issues with the cytokine storm align to the things that glycine can protect against, heavily anti-inflammatory. And so folks, these are a lot of ingredients that you should look into. I'm sorry to say that this supplement does not exist, but if it did, it would just be 4 capsules a day. Instead, you're gonna be running around taking like I do, like 7 or 8. But I will tell you, I've been doing really well, and I honestly believe that if nothing else, look into ergothioneine and double down on that vitamin D and see how you feel. See if anything's going a little bit better for you. Hopefully everyone's staying safe, healthy, and clean out there. Feel free to leave any comments, drop any questions. I'm a huge fan of the olive leaf extract, the ergothioneine. There's too many good things in here. But yeah, so we're trying to throw some unique things in here. And if nothing else, zinc, quercetin, olive leaf, and lots of vitamin D. That would be like my core basic stack. And then if some formulating companies can throw in some MitoPrime with that ergothioneine, that'd be awesome. All right, thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel, leave any comments, and I will see you on the next Formulators Corner. You can find this blog post at blog.priceplow.com/formulators-corner. Thanks for watching.
Welcome to PricePlow.